You're good.
Okay, I just want to say a few words about my own history with public libraries and school libraries and graphic novels, and with Will Eisner. I became a public librarian in 1988, and one of my immediate goals was to alert librarians to the changes in the comic book industry, because we're having a new wave of comics and graphic novels coming out, things like Mouse, and I felt it was important that they would be included in the library collections. And so I set out to make this one of my tasks, and I wrote a few articles. And after a couple of years, I decided to write a book about collecting graphic novels, because so little was known at the time. And one thing led to another, and eventually I was put in touch with Will Eisner, who was very supportive and tried to help me find a publisher for the book, and told me about his own experiences trying to get graphic novels or earlier comics into libraries, and the fact that he himself had written about comics in libraries. His first article had come out in Library Journal in 1974. And then he and I became friends and worked on this we worked on this really until he passed away. And during the course of it, I wrote several books, and I met with him several times, and it was really a wonderful experience for him and for all of us to see this thing blossom. And that's a very short story about my history with Will Eisner and graphic novels in libraries.
And if you want one other tidbit about Will Eisner, this is not to do with library, but with schools. There's this amazing interview, which we portray in the book, that Eisner gave to a newspaper in 1940.
Right.
Basically taught, and comic books were just starting and still pretty much thought of as junk, which they would be for, another 30 years or 40 years or something. And but Eisner was asked, why he chose to go into comics, and he started talking about graphic novels basically, and this idea that comics could be like literature. And he said someday comics will even be taught in schools, which the newspaper interview, thought was hilarious at the time. So I mean, it's kind of mind-blowing how far-sighted he was about what comics could be. I mean, we're just catching up to that now, really. So I think that's pretty fun to realize.
That's an awesome tidbit. Yeah. I'm gonna